This is such a sweet little story about these two gay soldiers who fought during the American Civil War. Hi, I'm Annie and I am doing this pulp project. You may have noticed this. I will read one pulp story for every year since the pulps started, and it is GarbAugust, so it's highly appropriate. More about GarbAugust and my pulp project in the description box below. So for this episode we have landed in the year 1897, and I found this really interesting short story in the April 1897 issue of the Argosy, My Revenge, a story of the American War. I think this is set during the American Civil War, as the Battle of Fredericksburg is mentioned. It's a romance story about two men who start out living together. There is no secret about this. These are two men who love each other, who live together. But the war separates them, as one of them joins the rebels and the other becomes a Federalist. And tragedy strike when they meet on the battlefield. It's no secret that this is a story about two gay lovers. The narrator of the story either loves passionately or hates passionately. His lover, although not mentioned literally as such, was beautiful as a girl. But this isn't just a story about love. It's also a story about war, about the atrocities during a war and all the gruesome stuff. So it is also an anti-war story. I found this story very well written. The aftermath of the Battle of Fredericksburg is vividly described and shows the gruesome result of combat. Overall, I found it really very well written. The characters are remarkably well developed. Well, the main character anyway. I found it just excellent. I found the prose just very well written. I really feel for those soldiers on the battlefield, and I just feel for the narrator. I found it really an excellent read. It's unknown who wrote this story, but it is obvious why the narrator, why the writer of the story remained nameless, as it is the 1890s. But I think the editors of the Argosy Magazine were so progressive that they printed this story. So I found this really interesting. And this reminds me, or not reminds me, I have to think more carefully about reading pulp stories in pulp magazines, especially the older ones, and look more closely to the stories that don't have a writer mentioned, because they have obviously probably an interesting theme to it. They have an interesting subject, as there is a reason why the writer can't be mentioned. So I have to look more closely into that. I have to pay more attention to that. I can highly recommend My Revenge, and I put a link to where you can read this story for free in the description box below, because I found this just an excellent story. Keep those pulp juices flowing, and I hope to see you in the next video.